Ladies and gentlemen, it is time! The Champions Tournament is happening right here, right now it seems, and wow, what a way to end off the chapter. But I am getting ahead of myself because this is also a review / breakdown. So without further ado, let's actually proceed on with the chapter called Condition. And the chapter starts off with a meeting between, of course, Nogi and Yamashita. It seems like this is happening after Yamashita's meeting with Shen Wulong, and Nogi is actually hearing about the condition itself and asking, of course, that, hey, is it actually true what Yamashita has just told him? And Yamashita himself clarifies that yes, Shen Wulong did in fact reveal his plan of basically the brain transplant, of trying to move over his consciousness or both halves of his brain for the tiger and himself, the dragon, so that they would be able to essentially fight each other for the most part. Of course, we get that reveal later on, but Nogi even asks himself if that's even possible. And yeah, there is a few questions when it comes to that, because there is a lot of assumption in assuming that consciousness is, well, limited to the brain itself. However, considering the, let's say, naturalistic framework of Kengan Omega, which is something I don't think I have enough time to get into, I'll probably save that for a different video, it's safe to assume that consciousness would be rooted to the brain, at least in this verse right now. And Nogi does say sometimes reality can be stranger than actual fiction, but also wants to confront Yamashita on the fact that he didn't actually tell him first before going to Shen Wulong. He actually just went there on his own. And Yamashita expresses the fact that he probably couldn't tell him because they are probably spies from the worm and maybe even death dealers. And Yamashita was worried that the intel on his meeting with Shen Wulong would end up getting leaked somehow. And we have actually seen this happen multiple times, where the worm and quite possibly death dealers know every trick in the book, from cloning to even small little changes, like swapping out someone, like having a spy that is disguised as someone else. And the infiltration of the Kengan Association runs so deep that the Kengan Association can't really even trust each other that much. This is something we have seen ever since like the early parts of the Kengan Omega series, like from chapters, let's say, I think it was 40 or 30 or so, when you know, certain Kengan Associate members were getting outright killed by people who they assumed were their own colleagues. So this is a point that does make sense on Yamashita's end, and Nogi does affirm that Yamashita probably made the right decision. Which then leads to, apparently, Nogi also launched his own investigation for Takada. Now, here's something pretty funny. I don't remember Takada. Like, at all. I think maybe it was one of the few people who was with Hayami. Someone is going to have to remind me of this dude, because his face it doesn't leave that much of a memorable impact, but it seems like he was one of the people who were suspected, and we suspected to actually betray the Kengan Association to a certain extent. But we do see, of course, Long Ming with him. And now that I think about it, I think, yeah, he is the person who was colluding with Hayami way back in Kengan Ashura. But it really doesn't matter that much, because even he says, hey, look, I didn't really work with the worm because he didn't want to get used by the worm, and confirms the fact that the worm had actually contacted him. Of course, Hiromo is also doing an investigation on Takada himself, and he says he's probably clean, or as clean as he can be in this situation. And after this, we get the reveal the huge reveal of what the actual condition between Shen Wulong and Yamashita was, with Shen Wulong explaining why he even wanted to do this whole cloning and basically brain transplanting thing in the first place. And Shen Wulong starts off with asking Yamashita, hey look, what do you think the significance would be if there were basically two of us? And Yamashita tries to come at this from the angle of course, it isn't natural for two people to be stuck within the same body. And of course, Shen Wulong does agree, but he says him and Tiger, they don't have as much of a problem with that as Yamashita is suspecting. The real issue is that he doesn't have an equal or a playmate, someone to basically spar with at full strength without holding back. That's the reason Shen Wulong started all of this. And I did say that this was more than likely going to be the deal between Shen Wulong and Yamashita, because Shen Wulong then goes on to clarify that, hey, if you can find me an equal or a playmate, someone as strong as I am that I can go full power against without worrying about nothing, then I will drop the plan, because that plan was meant to solve that problem for himself. And thus, there is a way for Yamashita to basically save Oma and Ryuki's lives if he finds someone on Shen Wulong's level. And so with that, we transition over to Yan and Shen Wulong and the rest of the other worm members, which is really just Fuzan. And of course, it starts off with what might be the funniest moment in the chapter itself, where Yan is basically trying to get Shen Wulong to basically say, oh, so you already told them every little secret about yourselves, you told them about your body, you told them about your plan, you just told them everything. Is that what am I understanding that right, Shen Wulong? And Shen Wulong admits to this, and Yan tries to genuinely strangle Shen Wulong. I don't think Yan is playing around when he's strangling Shen. I think there's actual malice behind that strangle. But of course, Shen Wulong isn't actually affected, and Yan, he's just pissed. His blood pressure is just high as always. It seems as though just Yan's entire thing is just having high blood pressure because of Shen Wulong. And honestly, even some of the Worm Association members, like, he has two traitors. Zaiji was this man's brother, and then you had Edward fumbling the bag way back in Kengan vs. Bergidori. It was a mess. But of course, after that, they do basically settle down after a while to actually have a talk and eat as well. Of course, Yan actually questions whether Yamashita can find an equal for Shen Wulong at all. And Shen Wulong's like, hey, you never know, because the world is actually a big place. There could be someone out there who is Shen Wulong's equal, but Yan seems to doubt that. Fuzan actually brings up the idea that maybe they should go around looking themselves, but Yan brushes that aside as if, look, there's no one stronger than this guy, it really doesn't matter. And then proceeds to inform Shen Wulong about Niko and Lohan's betrayal. So they already know. They already know that Niko and Lohan are planning to backstab Shen Wulong. Now, that makes things quite interesting, because now there's so many setbacks to this plan that I do wonder how successful or how much of dismal failure awaits them, or how much success awaits them, because as you can see, I'm a bit conflicted with this. It seems as though everyone knows Lohan's bad news, and most people can see the betrayal coming. And so, it's so easy at this point to assume, oh yeah, they're just gonna fail. Niko and Lohan are just gonna fail. But because it's so obvious that they would fail because of all these factors, I'm even more skeptical of the fact that they won't fail. I think that maybe a victory, an unexpected victory, might actually happen for Lohan here. But of course, Yan wants to put an end to all of that and says, hey, they'll take care of Lohan and Niko, and that Lohan is probably the biggest problem here. And that, of course, goes to show just how powerful Lohan is, where Niko isn't really that big of a threat, but Lohan is a threat. I've been saying this for a while, Lohan is probably the second strongest in the entire verse. But it seems as though Shen Wulong wants to keep both of them alive, mainly because it would take the lives of both Yan and Fulzan to take both of them down, and Shen simply doesn't want that, but also that Niko has a plan of some sort that could lead to him actually having an equal, which is interesting that Niko might have actually had this whole side project thing, which was probably related to, the Niko style and the Tiger's Vessel entire fiasco there. I think Shen Wulong was aware that Niko was trying to plan his own thing and is hoping that that entire thing actually ends off with him having an equal. But Shen then has to say, hey, now he has to wait, and when we actually get out of that entire scenario, we actually go 2 months later to the real championship tournament, and oh boy, it's here. I didn't expect it to come this soon. I thought we would be fighting Shen first. Genuinely, that's what I thought. But here it is. It's happening right now. And we get to see that it's hosted in, of course, one of Toyota's stadiums or pub private theaters. That's called the Phantom Opera House. And of course, Toyota talks about this being sort of like a pseudo-ghoul ritual of sorts, because they are now getting the strongest together and trying to form who will be basically the strongest of the strongest so that they can face off against Shen Wulong. This tournament has now been put around the context of, okay, whoever wins this tournament is more than likely fighting Shen Wulong. And so the chapter actually ends off with the fighters actually making it to the stage. So they are people who have qualified basically, and I guess we'll see next chapter who are the participants. We do know Lolong and Gerada are confirmed participants here, so they're a no-brainer. I guess the question is everyone else. But with that, I think the chapter has basically ended. The only thing that I missed in the whole chapter breakdown is Shen Wulong actually saying that Kuroki Gensai might be one of those people who might turn out to be his playmate. So again, Kuroki Gensai stocks are looking fairly good. But with all that being said, this was a good chapter. We're getting into a tournament finally. And yeah, if you made it this far, don't forget to like and sub. And until next time, take it easy.